What's patient buy-in? We talk about, we got to get our patients to buy in. What are we talking about? It getting buy-in is not just kind of buying what you're selling. In this case, if you're selling a plan of care, it's them showing up for the appointments for the plan of care. But also, I think, Carol, I would kind of look at that as engaging. Online, if you're doing online marketing, we talk about engaging, people actually interacting with you. So if they're engaging with the sessions, they're making shifts.
Right.
And that is a whole nother level of buy-in to what you're selling. What does that mean to you?
I think it's just an alignment of goals, processes, and like philosophy of treatment, and building trust between you and them so that they know that you're going to do what you're supposed to do to help them get to that goal, and they're going to do what they're supposed to do in order to get to that goal.
So would that be buy-in, or that would be some of the components of how to get buy-in?
I think if you have that trust and there is the alignment of goals, that is the buy-in.
I would say buy-in is a patient at the end of their first visit scheduling out all of their visits for their plan of care.
Yeah, that's typically how we would look at a buy-in.
First off, it's not talking to the person, it's communication. So it's two-way communication, seeing that they duplicate the things that you're trying to espouse to them about what we can provide. When they can duplicate that back in a simple form, and then they take that first active step of participating in their journey forward, and you can see that you're not trying to convince them. You're offering something, you're demonstrating that it's going to provide value, it's going to improve their life, and they have this emotion about them like, yeah, let's do it.
Thank you for that. I want to share, and I won't get this definition exactly right, so if someone has heard it before, they can correct me. Let's understand what buy-in is and what we're selling people. I know the S word is a bad word, but we're not going to make it a bad word, because the greatest definition I heard of selling, it's persuading someone to do something that is actually good for them. That's selling. That's how I've always viewed selling. We are in the persuasion business. Convincing, I don't know, convincing, I guess persuading, I guess you could say it's the same, but convincing always sounds to me a little harsher. I don't know why, but persuasion, we are in the selling business. So if we all can agree that selling is a persuasion that we do, that our staff does, that our front desk does, that our aides do, we're all persuading people to do things that are actually good for them. Can it also be good for our business as well? Is that okay? Damn right it's okay. It doesn't have to be good for one and bad for the other. It can be a win-win-win. And the best things that we do are actually best for the person. So I just wanted to bring that up. When we talk about getting people to buy in, it's persuading people to take an action that actually is good for them. Is that okay? Does that resonate? Does that resonate with you? Martin, does that resonate with you?
Sure, absolutely. I think it's creating that value to your customer, to your client, to your patient. Through that first visit, you show them how we're going to help them, create that value for them, allows them to buy into the continued plan of care. If you don't create value on that first visit, they're not bought in, they're not going to return. You're going to have cancellations and no-shows. So it's all about that first little, like, how can we help you? And this is how we're going to help you and create value.
So I want to dive in a little bit more to some more tangible, specific things. And Zach, I'm gonna pick on you because I know you are very, very good at this. Zach, what are you doing? And it's part of the training that you had a while ago now, 2-3 years ago when you first started your business and you started closing. Zach's an amazing story. I mean, he had a cash-based business. He went from closing, I don't know, $125 was the best you could do, right? A few visits at $125, and then all of a sudden you were closing, I don't know, $5,000 programs. Didn't you have $9,000 program or something like that?
Not 9. That'd be a new record.
Oh, well, I know you had a 5,000 or 4,000. You obviously persuaded someone to purchase a package that ultimately would help them. Can you take me through just a couple key components? Can you take me through the structure of how you do that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple from like a 10,000 foot view. I think you have to first, if you have to first start with yourself and do it yourself first. So for example, I bring that up because yesterday I was training some new staff members on basically what we're talking about right now and the selling process. And I tell the story because I realized the things I'm teaching to my team are the things that I needed to get over myself in terms of stories in my own head. First being what Jamey mentioned was that word of selling, and I used to avoid it. And now I just come right out with it and tell everybody we're doing sales training. And that's what I had to first get over with myself, is make sure that we're not sort of coinciding this with selling a used car. We are selling something that's going to help people and get over this competitive mindset of what there's a winner and a loser. It can be mutually beneficial. With all that being said, I think it's understanding what we've been talking about buy-in. And to me, buy-in is an emotion. It is, there's no feature, there's no benefit to it. It's not, yeah, it's the patient experience, and it is maybe a style of treatment, if you will, but it really isn't. It's how are you making the patient feel? How is the patient feeling about their interaction, their experience with you? And it's emotional. I don't care if you're the best clinician in the world. If we don't develop trust in them, in us as a person, not a clinician, but a person first, a clinician second, we're never going to sell anything. So with that being said, it's how we really do it is we start off with just focusing on the patient experience, specifically focusing on what they're actually feeling at every, and we talk about this a lot in PFU, it's one of our steps, on what they're feeling at every moment they come and interact with us.
So Zach, let me jump in for a second, because you're opening up a can of worms that we could be here for hours. When we talk about the customer journey, the patient experience, we call it patient delight, checkpoint number 7, actually. But we're breaking this down much more specific.
Okay.
We're breaking it down to how to actually do an evaluation and specifically get buy-in to the plan of care. Like, I don't want to stay vague here. That's not what this interaction for. I want to get specific so people can walk away with tangible things. So is there something you specifically say or do with your clients, your structure? So when you're teaching your staff how to sell a $5,000 or $2,500 program, what are the core pieces, the 2, 3, 4 pieces of structure that you use?
For one, I have to say, when we talk to them first on the phone, we tell them what we're going to do. We tell them when they come in, we are going to recommend a plan of care in the form of a package or a program, so they know to expect that on the very front end. So we tell them that. So we don't want to surprise them by saying, oh, and this plan of care at the end is going to be this much. So that's one.
All right. So breakdown. Someone's going to keep interrupting because I want to break it down for everyone. Before the evaluation, before the initial visit, you're telling them what's going to happen. Yep. And what's going to happen. So yes. What's going to happen when you come in, and what's going to happen at the end of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. We when they first come in for our eval, we make sure this is simple, small stuff. We make sure every PT at the beginning of the day knows the name of every eval before they show up, so they don't have to look at their computer or anything like that before they come in. So when the patient walks in the door, if it's Jamey, they can walk in and say, hey, Jamey, thank you so much for showing up on time. Really appreciate you filling out your forms ahead of time. Let's get started. So we actually know who the person is.
We'll chalk that up to rapport building.
Yep.
There are rapport building strategies like knowing someone's name, making eye contact, smiling. These are the basic strategies of rapport building. Mm-hmm. So that is infused in everything we do. And to, I think, Charles's point, rapport building builds trust, right? There's research that rapport building builds trust. And that's a big part of this. I want to get to the juice though.
Yep. So they get so we know the name ahead of time. It's really nothing magic. These are these small little things that add up. And then the next is the PT themselves, before they get started, gives them a tour of the facility that's very structured. They show them the clinic. They show them our performance training area. They show them where the bathrooms are, and all these different things. And we even got feedback on that the other day from a patient as an example. If we're thinking these are small things, somebody commented after we got to know them a few sessions later that just taking the effort to show them where the bathroom was meant a lot to them, because they had a bladder issue we didn't know about. They didn't share that on their forms or anything like that. So these little things matter. And then finally, when we get to the eval, we set the stage at the beginning of how that session's going to go, what the structure is actually going to look like. We tell them we're going to ask them a bunch of questions to find out more about them. We tell them we're going to do a few tests. We tell them that they run the show and they ask any questions that they want along the way. And then we tell them we're going to recommend that package once again before we even get into it. So again, we continue to set the stage over and over again. And then finally, we make sure in our subjective, which I think is maybe the most important part, I think, Jamey, where you might be going with this, is we make sure we specifically find out where the emotional connection is to them. We find out what their pain points are. Where does their knee pain, their back pain, their shoulder pain, where does it actually connect to in terms of what matters to them?
All right. When it comes to quote selling or persuading, there's something that needs to be created in this conversation. And it's called the gap. Everyone write this down. The gap. Write down the word gap. A gap is created when you identify the pain points. It's the reason why the person is coming in, but there's different layers to this. It's not just, I came in and my knee hurts and my child is having trouble doing this. It's going deeper to establish, so what additional problems are happening because of this? What is it that you can't do? There's a structure to quote selling, and it starts with the house of pain. So what's the next thing you want to do once you understand where they are and what this is causing them? Is to create then, what do they want? Related, or this is also said to be the transformation, the result, the pleasure island, as I like to put it. House of pain to pleasure island. What's pleasure island? It's where they want to end up.